How to unroot subconscious beliefs that are blocking your success. Now, most of you guys are actually in a war. And the truth is that you're in a war which you're losing and you're not even aware. You're trying to fight your conscious mind whilst your subconscious mind has already decided that you've lost. And inside this video, I'm going to be breaking down exactly how to, first of all, understand the subconscious mind and really and truly be able to break down and analyze what's going on within so you can become aware of why the things without are happening. And then we're also going to be breaking down how to actually replace these programs in order for you to go ahead and change the course basically, and finally break the loop so you can live your desired reality. And yeah, let's get straight into this. So first thing we're going to be breaking down is what exactly the subconscious mind is, and basically why it's so powerful in determining the reality you live right now. And a lot of you guys, you'll really be trying. You'll be looking at all the latest information, looking at all the strategies, buying the new courses, getting new mentors, reading all the books, writing affirmations, vision boards, and seriously setting like intentions for things to change in your life. But you still procrastinate, you still self-sabotage, and you're wondering why all of this is still happening, why you're basically stuck in a loop right now. So the first thing you need to understand is the iceberg determining your success. So what am I talking about here? I've actually broken this down in a different video, but imagine that this purple wave is some water, and unfortunately my blue pen did explode. So imagine that there is a nice purple iceberg, and you have the tip of the iceberg here, and what you have below is the real depth of the iceberg. Okay? Now, what you need to understand is this is exactly how your mind works. What you have on top is you have the conscious mind, and below it is the subconscious. And the conscious mind is only 5% of your entire brain. You hear those studies where people say, oh, you're only using, less than X amount of your brain. This is what it is. Your conscious mind is the 5%. And this is driving your logical thinking. It's driving your analytical mind. And it's things like your short-term memory, and even just things like willpower. And what you have is the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind is actually driving 95% of everything inside your body right now. And this is everything from your emotions, your beliefs, your bodily functions, somatic responses, and there's so much with this. I might just put an image on the screen, but there's intuition, there's spiritual connection, and even things like your dreams. And is there anything important I'm missing? There's also your memories, okay? Your long-term memories. So the reason why I'm breaking this down in this way is because, like I said at the start, you're fighting your subconscious mind, which is actually years and years and years of programming with your conscious mind. And this is the pure reason for why you will fail at pretty much anything you do if you're not aligned with that on a subconscious level. So this is the invisible iceberg that is determining your success. And this is why right now you may be 25, 28 years old in a 9-to-5 struggling to start your own business because so-and-so teacher at school told you that you're shit at maths, and that then became a memory, it became a belief, and you also attached emotion to that, such as shame. And therefore you can't do the numbers for the business you're trying to run up, right? Like, that's just one example, okay? So that's very simply what the subconscious mind is. That's how I can put it in the most simple way. The next thing you need to understand from here is the programming, right? Where does this programming come from? Where do all of these things that are controlling, 95% of your entire life and your reality? Because if what's impressed into that subconscious mind is expressed into your reality, then you need to become aware of what's going on within. So, where did all of this come from? This is what I'm going to break down right now. So, what brain researchers have discovered, and this is something you can do some research on yourself if you want to go a lot deeper into this kind of stuff, is that you, let me use purple. You were programmed before you were even aware. And the very fact that you were programmed before you were even aware is why so many people are simply unaware. This is why you live in a loop. This is why you see 30, 40, 50-year-olds who have done the exact same thing for their entire life. It's because of their programming. And from the ages, there's 4 different categories here. So you have from the ages of 0 to 2. So I'm going to put age up here. I'm going to draw this in like a little table. What you have is age, and then you have brain waves. And then over here, I'm going to break down what this means. So I'm just going to put a question mark, info, right? So you have 0 to 2, you have 2 to 7, you have 7 to 12, and then you have from the age of 12 and beyond. So what am I breaking down here? Well, brainwaves. Now, the reason why you were so programmable during your early stages of life, and the reason why you have so many different subconscious beliefs that you're not even aware of, is because from the ages of 0 to 2, you're basically in delta brainwaves, okay? And delta brainwaves are very slow, and this is basically where you're in a deep, deep sleep. You're connected to the superconscious mind, which I'm not really going to break down in this video, and you're also, you're just basically fast asleep. You're in this like healing state, okay? And this is why like people feel very calm when they see babies. It's because they have this healing energy and aura around them. And basically you come into the world as a blank slate. Every single human comes into this world as a blank slate. And what happens is, well, they get put into an environment, right? They get put onto the earth, they get put into an environment. This is supposed to be the earth. And what they have is family, friends, and they're in like a very enclosed environment for their first early years, unless like their parents expose them like crazy to, mad shit. But typically they're just in an enclosed environment. Nothing really tends to happen. They just learn the most of their information from their family and friends, just kind of putting their feet down into the world basically. Then what you have from the ages of 2 to 7 is, so you have delta, and then what you have is theta, okay? So theta brainwaves. And this is where you basically turn into a sponge, right? This is where you're in like a hypnosis type state of energy. And this is where you absorb literally everything around you. So this is why kids seem to develop so quickly between the ages of 2 to 7. It's because they're a sponge, right? This is why there's things like, even just simple things like parental restrictions on TV shows and like movies and things like that. It's because imagine like showing a little kid a horror movie, or imagine showing a little kid like a movie about murdering. That'll be fucked from the get-go, right? It's because they don't know like what's right and wrong, and they're only just learning what technically is right and wrong from the get-go. And there is like no difference between right and wrong except from what you believe is right and wrong, which is what they're absorbing in this state. So you have delta, you have theta, and then what you have is alpha. And what's actually happening is, you can imagine that you're slowly waking up as you get older. when you're in alpha states of energy, this is where you're more creative and imaginative. This is where you're more likely to kind of analyze the world from a more creative standpoint, like you question a lot. This is why like kids get very annoying between these ages. They question absolutely everything because they're still learning. And this is also where they can still have like intuitive senses. And this is why like kids this age, and even still between 2 to 7, will cry if there's like, you know, they can sense bad energy. It's because they're in this intuitive state. They're still operating majorly from their subconscious mind, and you know, from this healing state that they were originally in. And what else? Well, this is where they're kind of still connected to the truth. Like they'll just state the obvious to the point where you may have had it like a kid will just call you fat, for example, or they'll point out something that we would think is rude, but because they haven't formed beliefs around what's socially accepted as rude and not rude, they'll just say things straight to people's faces. They'll be like, I don't like you, you're not my friend, right? That type of shit. And unfortunately then, what happens is you start to get older and you get into beta brainwaves, and here is where you're basically fully programmed. You're running on subconscious loops. You're thinking very analytically. And this is where you just continue with what you've been programmed with during your early stages of life. So why am I breaking all of this down? This is all going to tie into something later in this video. However, the main reason in this stage is just to help you understand exactly where you've been programmed, exactly why you've been programmed, and also exactly who you've been programmed by. Because who were you surrounded with during these early stages of your life? Literally until the age of 12, you were surrounded with your family, your parents, your grandparents, your older siblings, maybe younger siblings. You were surrounded by cousins, aunties, uncles. You were surrounded by your local neighborhoods, the kids in your primary school, the teachers that were in your primary school. And so what can happen, right, is, first of all, what happens is absolutely everyone who comes to this planet has their own individual experience. And what that also means, if you want to really break it down, is like, before you've come to this life, what you are is a soul, you're a split off segment of the universe, and you've chosen this set of family, this set of friends, the location you're in, the type of gender you are. You've chosen all of this shit before you've come to this life. And now you're here to experience it, and this is why every soul has their own individual blueprint. And what happens is you get put through this early stage of programming in order for you to then, I believe this anyway, the whole purpose of the soul is to expand and grow, and what happens during the early years is you kind of forget who you are. And the whole of your life is spent basically rediscovering the truth in your own unique way. And that's also the universe expanding and growing in its own unique way. And that's what I really believe the kind of fundamental purpose is of pretty much every soul on this planet, is to grow. Okay, it doesn't matter if that growth is for good or bad, but it's to grow. And if the universe is constantly expanding, then, you know, and you're a part of the universe, then you're also a part of that expanding, basically. So now that we've broken down exactly why you're programmed this way, let's break down the next part, which is gonna tie into now like actually understanding the programming you have and how to like actually unroot everything. So let me use some spray. By the way, like, I think I mentioned it in my first video, I got told to get a whiteboard. I really did not want to record on a whiteboard because I've seen like, you know, other creators and things like that recording on whiteboards. It has like a certain stigma around it, but then I realized like, the fuck, man, whiteboards have been around since before YouTube. So who gives a fuck? It's just a form of me transmitting my energy, sharing my knowledge, and hopefully helping at least one of you become better. So the next part now is understanding the emotional loop that you're currently going through. So what you have is, well, I want you to imagine that your subconscious mind and the way your mind is formed, similar to the iceberg, is just like a tree, okay? This is all of the tree's roots. and what you have is the tree's branches, okay? So all of these individual branches. Now this is a very bad example of a tree. Let me just fix this branch here because it looks kind of weird. But imagine that all of these are branches, and obviously you'll have like the leaves of the tree too. I'm only going to draw like this side of branches just for the sake of this video. And that's all the leaves. So most people, what they try and do is they try and treat the symptoms. Okay, the symptoms are basically like the flower, the symptoms are like the plant. So these are the symptoms. And really, like, let's say if a plant is fucking up, like, I don't know how a plant can fuck up, but let's say you're trying to grow a really nice tree and all of a sudden all the leaves turn yellow and you start seeing mold spores on there. What's the cause of this? Well, the cause of this is what's going into the soil. The cause of this is what's going on beneath the surface, which is really the roots, right? The roots and what the plant is absorbing are the cause, and the symptoms is the effect. Now, is this like the best example biologically? Probably not, but it's a very easy way to understand exactly what's going on. So how can I break this down into logical terms? Well, let's say that you have symptoms of no money. Let's say you have symptoms of being out of shape. You have symptoms where you don't have no loving relationship. And let's say you have another symptom in your life right now in your current reality, which is that you are not living a life of freedom. You have no freedom. And like you're stuck in your room all day or something. So these are all symptoms. These are all things that you see in your external reality. But what actually is the cause of all of this? Well, the cause is what we're going to break down now. So let's go ahead and move this line a bit. Let me just shift some of this. And I'll leave all of this here as well, even the tree. But the cause is the beliefs. What you impress into the subconscious mind will basically be expressed into external reality. If you plant roses, you're going to see roses. If you plant a tree, then you're going to grow a tree. And so beliefs, it doesn't matter whether they're good or bad, if they're planted into this bed of soil, then they're going to grow as long as they're nurtured and watered with emotion. So let's break this down. Your thoughts drive your feelings. You can call this emotions, which drive your behaviors, which drive your habits, and this drives your identity, which drives your results. And to be honest, you could really change feelings to, in fact, there's another one before this. I kind of fucked this up on my end. Let me just move all of this. Beliefs, and then you have your feelings, and then you have your thoughts. Okay, so you have your thoughts, which drive your feelings, which drive your beliefs, which drive your behaviors, which drive your habits, which drive your identity, which therefore creates your results or your reality. So let's break this down. What we have here, behaviors and habits, this is all action. Okay, action. What we have here, beliefs and emotion and thoughts, is basically what you could call, I mean, you could call this frequency if you really wanted to. And basically the way to look at this, right, is your frequency is what's being emitted into the universe, and the universe will simply show you what you're emitting. This is like you tuning into a radio station, and the radio station will play the song that you've tuned into, or the radio station you've tuned into. So if you emit the frequency of rap music, then you're gonna listen to rap music and hear it, right, physically. Same thing works here. If you have the thoughts, feelings, and beliefs of a broke person, then you are going to see in your reality confirmation for why you are broke. So the problem that most people have is they try and solve the symptoms. And action can be alone looked at as one of the symptoms, right? Most people think that the reason they have no money is because they're missing a strategy. Okay? And the reason why they're missing a strategy though is because they believe that they're incapable of seeing those results without, that information, right? But what's the underlying thing of all of this? Why do people go chasing more and more information and don't actually take action? Well, it's because they believe that they're missing something, and if they're missing something, they're operating from lack, and so the real root here is that they're feeling lack. Okay, that's like the real root of everything. And I mean, to break this down into a way that's, even more understandable, if you only try and change your behaviors and habits, you cannot override your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs that are driving these behaviors and habits if you just change the action alone. That's why you will struggle to wake up in the morning at 4 a.m. And when you listen to David Goggins, that's why you'll struggle to wake up at this time. It's because your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs are of someone who just snoozes their alarm. And it's why you won't see success in your business no matter how much action you take. It's because your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs are of someone who is broke, who fears money, who is not worthy of success. And another one, the reason why you're lacking a relationship, no matter how many people you chase and how many people you swipe, or whatever bullshit, you will never see a relationship occur if you do not love yourself, if you do not believe that you're worthy of love. And likewise, for living a life of freedom, you could book, this is a crazy one, you could book a ticket and fucking go to a different country and you can still feel like you're not free. Because you don't believe that you are living a life of freedom. This is so crazy, right? Because I went on a holiday. It wasn't really a holiday, it was a mastermind. And I spoke to one of the guys there. And whilst it was a mindset mastermind as well, right? Whilst we were there, all of us were in Marbella, okay? All of us were literally living a life of freedom. We didn't have to work endlessly, on our laptops. We were able to just sit there in the present moment, absorb the information that we were learning. And one of the dudes there was like, bro, I still don't live a life of freedom. And in fact, this was a very common belief among a lot of the guys there. And it was just crazy to me because here we are, like in Marbella, we were in a huge villa. Yet some of these guys still didn't feel free, even though they were physically there, right? And I even had this as well. I'm currently out in Marbella again right now. And for a brief moment, I caught myself in the thought of like, am I really free right now? And then I had to reframe it in my mind, which is what I'm going to show you in this video. But it's crazy, right? It's crazy how like your mind can distort the way that you're perceiving your reality. And this is going to go into my next point. So your frequency, your thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and there's other stuff that come into that, like your kind of overall like state of energy, as well, like physically, that can affect your frequency too. But let me break down this next point here, which is going to help you go even deeper into understanding, your subconscious mind and the role it plays in the reality you live. And by understanding this, you can then go ahead and reverse engineer everything, which I'll show you how to do as well. So basically, what I was saying there, right, is your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. All of this will form a lens, okay? And the way to view this lens is like looking through an eye, okay? So imagine that this is an eye, these are the eyelashes, and this is the eye itself, you got the pupil, and let's say they've got like freaking purple eyes, I don't know, they got purple eyes. They're on lean or something, I don't know. Anyway, point I'm getting to is, if this is your eye, then your thoughts, frequency, and beliefs are the pair of glasses you're wearing, right? This is what you're seeing your life through. And so you could book a holiday, you could hit your financial goals, you could get into a relationship, And all of these things can be distorted because you have the thoughts, feelings, and beliefs of someone who is in lack, of someone who is unworthy, and of someone who doesn't love themselves. Zero self-love. And so you can have these beautiful things in your life. You can have an amazing life, but you might not be happy within, and therefore it distorts everything you see outside of you. And this is very powerful, because this is why you see, millionaires who are having their life fall apart, right? This is why you see lottery winners who lose it all within a few months. It's because they don't believe themselves to be abundant, right? They don't believe themselves to be secure, and therefore, they don't believe themselves to be someone who can maintain all of that money, and therefore they just fucking spend it all on shit, right? And that's what happens. So that should hopefully help you break down everything. You cannot change the action, which was the habits and the behaviors, if you do not change the thoughts, feelings, and beliefs that are driving all of that. Okay? Everything in your life is being driven by emotions right now. Everything in your life is being driven by emotions and your frequency. And so if you do not master your frequency, you will never be able to master your reality or yourself. Okay? You won't be able to wake up at 4 a.m. and post it on your story every day because David Goggins told you to. I actually don't have anything against David Goggins. He's solid. I've got a lot of respect for him. I listened to his Ed My Led podcast. You guys should listen to that as well. That one changed my life. I remember I listened to that whilst I was in uni, and that shit just lit a fire within me. I actually recently re-listened to it again, probably like a month ago. It's fire. David Goggins is a sick guy. I just use it as an example because people believe that discipline and all of these external actions will allow them to feel worthy, whereas that's just another middleman and mechanism for them to, tie their worth to, and therefore, if they miss a wake-up time, if they miss their workout, if they don't track their macros, they go back to feeling a state of lack, a state of unworthiness, a state of guilt, and therefore they send that signal out to the universe, and the universe gets this whole entire fucked up signal, and so you don't see anything reflects back into your reality. It's like a mirror, right? If you constantly move around in a mirror, if you constantly move around in one of those old school cameras, like digital cameras that prints it out, you're gonna get a blurred image. Yeah, that's exactly how reality works. You need to be in that energetic state and stillness and presence within that energy, and that's the only real way you can do that is by allowing it to become subconscious. So, how to break subconscious loops. So there's 4 steps to this process. Number 1 is awareness, okay? Awareness is typically the first step of all of my how-to tutorials. However, this is going to be very different. This is going to be actually unrooting the belief, okay? So we can call this unrooting the belief. What we're going to be doing here is asking ourselves a very simple statement. I suggest you write this down as you watch this, and this is going to fucking blow your mind. When I try X, change in my reality, I feel Y, emotional resistance, because I believe Z, okay, story / memory / false belief is true. This is going to absolutely blow your mind. Let me repeat this statement for you. What you're going to use this as is basically a journaling prompt. When I try to make X change in my reality, I feel Y emotional resistance because I believe that Z, story, memory, or false belief is true. You can apply this to absolutely anything. This framework is going to allow you to, it's just going to allow you to unroot absolutely every belief in your reality. For example, when I try to change my physique, I feel a lack of confidence or fear, because I believe that I don't know what I'm doing in the gym, or I believe that I've always been that fat kid, right? That's an example. When I try to move out of my parents' house, I feel fear and I feel guilt because I believe that I should live with my parents and support them, and I also don't know how to financially sustain myself if I do move out. So you can see the truth very, very clearly. You can see the false belief very, very clearly. And the key point here is that a lot of these beliefs that you uncover will be super, super irrational. Okay, so if it sounds stupid, still write it down, because you're going to get very clear on exactly what the programming is that's in your mind. And some good questions you can ask yourself is, who was I surrounded by? And in fact, this is going to dive into the next step. Let me break this down. So now that you've got clear on the statements and story that you're telling yourself, you're going to ask yourself the next step, which I like to call emotional backtracking. And this is where you're going to ask yourself, who was I surrounded by when I was, let's say, 0 to 12? Who modeled these beliefs? And also, so there's 1, 2, 3. Also, you're gonna ask yourself, bro, I'm like, oh shit, what the fuck? How did this belief make me feel safe at the time? So what's gonna happen here, right? When you go through step 1, first thing, quick side note when it comes to step 1, is if you're aware of the vibrational chart, and I will probably put an image somewhere up on the screen. When you're looking at the vibrational chart, in the middle you have neutrality and acceptance. At the bottom you have all of these contracted states of emotion, okay? This is where most of you guys will be if you're facing resistance with your current, belief and whatever it is that's going on in your reality. This is where most of you guys will be. You'll be in emotions of pride, shame, guilt, fear, lack, unworthiness, all of these emotions, okay? And when it comes to the story / memory / false belief that you think is true, or your subconscious mind believes is true about yourself and your reality, ask yourself these questions. Who was I surrounded by when I was aged 0 to 12? And this is going to provide you with a deep answer, because you're going to become aware of what was programming you. Remember when I mentioned those different states of brainwaves and the different states that you were in as a child that causes you to have your own set of beliefs and paradigms? All of that was formed by your environment, who you were surrounded with, the people you were with, your teachers. Okay, that's a big one. I know so many people whose entire courses of their life would have been changed by one simple statement by a teacher. You're shit at maths, you're not good at English, and he's better than you, right? Imagine this, man. Like, this is peak. I had a friend in primary school, okay, and this is gonna kind of big me up, but he basically was like a very naughty kid, and he was always like, talking over the teacher, and I was very good friends with him, okay? I didn't have any problem with him talking over the teacher. But this teacher would create this very big gap of separation between me and him. He'd say that one day Keenan's gonna drive past you in his nice car, you're gonna be standing at a bus stop. And like, imagine the emotional impacts that would have, hit that kid. We were we were in year 3, so maybe like, I don't know the exact age, but like 8, 9 years old. That's between this range. Imagine hearing that, right? Imagine how that belief would make you feel as you grow up. Okay, and the same thing goes for like people who got bullied in primary school, or people who got picked on by teachers in primary school. Like all of this has a serious impact on you, and by going through this process, you're going to be able to undo all of the false beliefs and realign yourself with the truth. Next question, who modeled these beliefs, is very similar to the first, but how did this belief make you feel safe at the time is also a very powerful one, because your brain moves from danger to safety, it moves from discomfort to comfort. And if, for example, saving money was something that made you feel safe when you were younger because your parents told you to, your parents rewarded you for saving money, and rather than actually like spending it or investing it, then you will have problems spending money and investing your money because you believe that you should be saving it. And so whilst it doesn't serve you anymore, if you're trying to say grow a business or invest your money somewhere, you will always default back to the belief that you thought was safe. Even though it's not true anymore, even though it doesn't serve you anymore, you're running on outdated programs, and that's why you're currently experiencing this in your life. So let's move on to step 3. So we have, I'll summarize all of these steps as well at the end. I've got to check what time it is. I've got a call like straight after this video. Let me just check what the time is and see if I'm all good. Alright, I've got 5 minutes. We're gonna wrap this up real soon though. Alright, cool. So, cool. Now what we're gonna do here is step 3 and step 4. So step 3 is called dissolving the emotional, you could call it emotional charge. I like to call it, you can call it emotional imbalance. And you can also call this remembering the truth. So let's go deep with this. What you need to understand is that there are multiple timelines that you can step into right now. There's infinite realities. And there's a version of you who I like to call your highest self. This higher self is the version of you who is fully expanding, fully living on their purpose, fully fulfilling their soul's purpose on this planet. And what I believe, and I've mentioned this in almost every video now, is that at the end of your life, what's going to happen is you're going to meet the man or woman that you could have been. And there's 2 ways that this can go. Either you will meet them eye to eye, and you'll meet your higher self, and they'll basically pat you on the back and say, hey look, you've absolutely smashed it, you've achieved everything we've come to Earth for. The other example is you will not meet eye to eye with them, and they will be entirely unrecognizable, and you will just be, you'll be shocked, right? They would have been so ahead of you the whole life that you lived, and they would have been whispering at you. And the best way to imagine this, let me use a different pen now. Best way to imagine this is imagine a mountain. What you have at the bottom is, this analogy is gonna really, help you out, especially those of you who feel a little lost right now. You have a forest, okay? You have all of these trees in this forest, right? It's just this big forest. You can't really see anything. You can't see the route to get to the mountain, and the trees are also going all the way up the mountain too, so you really cannot see what's going on. However, what you have at the top of this mountain is your higher self, and I'm going to put a crown on him. Let's just call this your higher self, okay? And you here, this is you navigating life. Your higher self has already seen your entire life. You could call this God, you could call this the universe, whatever you want to call it. But what you have is your soul, okay, and your current physical body navigating life, and you could say that you moving through this forest is the same as you navigating through time. What's going to happen is your higher self is going to be whispering at you right now on Earth, and it's going to be whispering at you subtle signs. And this comes back to the point of the subconscious mind and how, it can guide you with your intuition, it can guide you with your gut instinct. And I believe that, you listening to your higher self is a big part of this, because he may say, or she may say, take a turn here and go left. Leave this job. Remove this person from your life. Move country. Or it may be as subtle as just stop eating that food, stop drinking alcohol, stop smoking. This isn't good for you, right? And it's your choice in that moment to then listen to that higher self. And this is something that I've been practicing a lot lately, is just listening to my gut instincts and just following the whispers of your higher self, because they will be whispers. They won't be loud, like, your ego will tell you, or your conscious mind will tell you. Your conscious mind will be screaming at you, bro, you need to buy this guy's course, it's gonna get you to 10K per month, it's gonna provide all the answers, or you need to get this fitness program, you need to go to this gym because it's gonna help you get jacked. But really, the whispers of your higher self are subtle, and all you have to do is trust them. So that's a bit of a side tangent, but let's get back to dissolving emotional imbalance and remembering the truth. So when it comes to dissolving emotional imbalance, there's a few ways to do this. One of the greatest ways to do this is breath work. Because what happens is energy gets stored in the body, and it can be stored as memories, it can be stored as trauma, tiredness, anything like this. And because we are physical beings, you do have to look at the physical aspects of yourself. It's not all just mental work. And the best way to do this, right, is, in fact, I will recommend a guy right now. Search up Breathe with Sandy on YouTube. And if you're watching this, Sandy, I want to work with you at some point. So yeah, just know that's coming. But basically, memories, trauma, tiredness are all stored in the body, okay? And they can be stored in different energy centers of your body. It's up to you to believe in this, whether you need to align your energy centers or whatever. But I can guarantee you that your body will signal when something feels good, when something feels bad. Why is it your whole face gets red and you get angry as fuck, or you get like tense as fuck when you feel angry? Okay, it's because your body is signaling, that energy, right? It's kind of transmuting that energy, or it's channeling that energy. That's the better word to say it, right? Another example is, why do you cry when you feel sadness? That's your body. It's like a irrational response, right? But it happens, and it's through your body. Why do you feel like butterflies in your stomach, or like real tightness in your stomach when something goes wrong in your business, a client drops, or in your relationship you have an argument? Why is it you feel this intense tightness? It's your body storing energy, and your body, if it's been storing false beliefs for a very long period of time, and everything in these contracted states of energy on the vibrational chart, then your body's just going to be out of whack, right? Your body's going to be so familiar with the emotions and the memories of things that don't serve you anymore, that no matter how hard you try to change things, it's so familiar to this and associated so much comfort to this stress that you simply always revert back to it. And this is why I like to call it an opposite synchronicity. This is why people can have fucking heart attacks, car crashes, all types of shit like this. It's an opposite synchronicity where things are so out of whack, so incoherent between your mind and your heart and your body, that shit goes wrong, and the world just has to fucking have an opposing force which will help you wake up. And this is why when people have a car crash or a near-death experience, they all of a sudden have an entirely different outlook on the world and spiritual change, because it's forced them to finally go within. Okay, that was a real good train of thought there. So breathwork is a very good way to dissolve emotion. Another good way is to just go through what you did in step 1 and just read it. Like, seriously, internalize it. And remember your power. Because at the end of the day, you're infinite. If you're a part of the universe, if you're operating at the top of this vibrational chart where everything is one, where you're operating from God consciousness, then you understand that you're infinite. You understand that you're the one that's creating this experience in your life. And if you created this experience, then you are also powerful enough to uncreate that experience or create an entirely new experience where you are living a life that you actually want to live, that's serving your purpose. So once you've internalized it, you remember your power. And then what you want to do is restate the truth. Okay, when you restate the truth, you're basically going to write down exactly what it is you want. And the best way to do this is by first of all starting out consciously with what you want, and I highly recommend you watch my video. It's called 5 Steps to Craft a Vision That Finally Manifests, and this will help you with some conscious cues and mental reframes in order for you to actually start impressing your subconscious mind with things that you want. And talking about the subconscious mind, and obviously that's the entire topic of this video, but it's also where the last step comes into play. So let's go ahead and wipe the whiteboard. So this last step is going to tie absolutely everything together, especially from the points in the start of this video too, and it's going to allow you to practically apply this into your daily life. Because I feel like a lot of creators will give you all the source, but they won't give you practical application. So step 4 is literally just impressing the new mental loops. And this, you could just call it impressing the subconscious. Now, what you want to do with this, okay, is you want to get clear on an intention. And this can be your vision, which I mentioned again, go watch that video. It can be a specific outcome. Whatever it is, okay? The best way to do this, right, is to, first of all, understand, obviously the brain waves. So when you're in your daily life, you're operating from, that beta state, and I think there's a few other different states where they're like very heightened states of energy. You're more aware, you're operating from your conscious mind, your subconscious is just running your system in the background. What you want to do is you want to get into a relaxed state, almost like you were when you were a baby. Okay, and what were you in when you were a baby? You were in those delta brainwaves, okay, and those theta brainwaves when you were a kid. And this is where you're in like a deep hypnosis stage. This is why children will sleep for much, much longer. And also why, it's also why you don't remember certain things. And if you try and think of your oldest memories, you can't tell what was a dream, what was a memory, what was this real? You can't really remember. That's why things like nostalgia happen as well. What you want to do is get yourself into a state of delta/theta. And luckily for you, you actually go through into these brainwaves during your sleep. That's why you dream, okay? That's why you dream. That's why you have everything in the background restoring itself. It's your subconscious mind just fully taking over, and your conscious mind is fully shut down. So the best way to do this is when you wake up and when you sleep. Just before you sleep. This is when your brain starts slowing down and shutting off. And even when you wake up, that's why you have those crazy lucid dreams in the morning. It's because you're still in a deep subconscious state where you don't know the difference between waking reality and sleeping reality. And basically everything just appears to be the same. And so the best way to do this is close your eyes, get clear on your intention, and you just want to visualize this scene, okay? And what I recommend is, first of all, just getting into a relaxed state. Do this seated if you can, because you'll just fall asleep otherwise. And get into the present moment. And the present moment is basically nothingness. There's no good, there's no bad. You're simply in a state of neutrality, okay? And what this will allow you to do is it will allow you to get out of any of these survival states of energy, because when you're in a survival state, your brain's trying to keep you safe, and it's not really a place where you can create from. But where can you create from? Well, that's a place of, a place of love, of joy, and, from God's consciousness, right? That's where you can start creating from. And so the best way to do that is attaching deep emotion to this visualization that you visualize and feeling it during the actual visualization itself. And then the final answer is repetition, the final step. Do this day in, day out until you literally brainwash and rewire your beliefs about yourself and your reality. And everything will change. And that's how you break subconscious loops and finally break the loop of your life and current reality to step into whatever life it is that you desire. So if you've enjoyed this video, go ahead and DM me on Instagram at mindofkian. And what I will do is, if you send me the word break the loop, if you send me that on DMs or comment it on my latest post, I will send you over my 21-day protocol, which teaches you how to implement absolutely everything I've spoken about inside this video and actually see change in your life. Okay? Appreciate you guys watching. That's how to unroot subconscious beliefs, and I'll see you guys in the next one.